Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So do me a favor before we get into these topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with a game that I don't really talk about on the channel, but I think to anybody who has been playing this game on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, this is definitely something you're going to want to know about. Reading from PlayStation Lifestyle, they say the Multiversus beta is finally coming to an end in June. At that time, Multiversus servers will shut down and no longer permit players access until the game fully launches in 2024. Unfortunately, this means paying players will be locked out of their content, and there are no refunds being given outside of the normal storefront policies and terms. The Multiversus beta end date is going to be June 25th, 2023. The article continues by saying, as explained in an FAQ posted alongside the announcement, quote, refunds are not available as a result of the open beta closure, end quote. It seems the expectation is for players to simply be content with getting locked out of their paid-for content for 6 months or even longer. Player First Games attempts to reassure players by stating that, quote, all progress and previously earned or purchased content will carry over when Multiversus returns in early 2024, end quote. So I wanted to let you guys know about this because, again, I don't know how many of you are playing this game or have been playing this game on PS4 and PS5, or maybe even if you're somebody who was playing it but maybe fell off of it. It's good to be aware that if you randomly decide sometime this year to go back to the game, you're not going to be able to play it. I think this is really bizarre, and honestly, I think it's a really dumb move, if I'm being frank. I don't know why they think it's a good idea to lock players who paid for content out of that content for the remainder of the year and for who knows how long in 2024. I just don't get it. I understand it's a beta, but if you're going to ask people to pay for content and decide, look, we're just going to shut this down for potentially a year, I don't see what the problem would be in just offering refunds, right? Because for the entire time this game is inaccessible, people who paid for this content aren't going to be able to use it. I think it's a really bad move, but I, again, wanted to let anybody who maybe plays this game know that this is how they're choosing to handle it. Moving on to the next topic, though, not something I expected to be talking about, and I don't know if it's actually going to lead to anything, but I really hope it does. A reference to Left 4 Dead 3 was recently discovered in Counter-Strike 2 files. So recently, a big announcement from Valve was Counter-Strike 2. That's obviously a very big deal, a very big game, but people were paying attention to this because of just how random it was, and obviously how much people really do want and have been asking for a long time for Left 4 Dead 3. It's hard to say if this actually means anything. Something that's worth noting in this line of code that references Left 4 Dead 3 is it says priority equals none, right? And people are looking at that and thinking this might be some type of troll from Valve, basically trolling Left 4 Dead fans, which would be pretty funny, but also kind of sad because, as I said, people have been asking for Left 4 Dead 3 for many years, and that's nothing new with Valve, right? People have been asking for Valve to just make a third entry in a series, and they seemingly are unwilling to do that. But still, as a big fan of the Left 4 Dead games, I would really love to see them come back to it, and maybe this is a little tease that maybe it is in the works. I don't know. What I will say is that if Left 4 Dead 3 eventually does come out, I think it will release on PlayStation. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 did not, for certain reasons, mainly because Valve just really seemingly didn't like what Sony did with the PlayStation 3. But the PS5 is obviously very different. So I would assume that if Left 4 Dead 3 does come out and it does come to consoles, it will release on PlayStation, which would be awesome. So let me know your thoughts on that. Next up, we're talking a little bit about Resident Evil 4 Remake. It says here from PlayStation Universe, Fresh evidence that Capcom is working on Separate Ways DLC for Resident Evil 4 Remake has surfaced via a data miner having discovered references to the mini campaign in the game's files. Gosetsu unearthed a folder known as the Another Order in Resident Evil 4 Remake's files, which is the Japanese name for Separate Ways. In addition, the Mercenaries and Chainsaw demo files were also found, the former of which is due out as a free DLC in April, which we already covered. For those who aren't aware, Separate Ways was featured in the PS2 version of Resident Evil 4. It wasn't included in the GameCube release, but players did get Assignment Ada, something of a smaller version set on the island, and every other version since. The campaign sees players control Ada Wong as she conducts her own mission concurrent with Leon's assignment. This isn't the first time we've heard rumors about Separate Ways. Earlier this month, leaker Dust Golem claimed that the mode was in the works and will be expanded over the original version. So, figured I would let you guys know about this. Again, I assume quite a few of you are currently playing Resident Evil 4 Remake and are currently enjoying it. And so, if you're wondering if they're going to include this DLC that came, with the game previously, it seems like they are. Or not include it, but release it. It will likely not be a free DLC. But continuing to talk about Resident Evil 4 Remake, I have, in my opinion, an interesting article here that was written up at Push Square, and the title reads, Resident Evil 4 Remake on PS4 is why cross-gen needs to end. They say the PS4 is coming up on its 10th birthday this year. The boy is starting to show. The aged hardware is still being treated to blockbuster releases like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, but outside of projects from Sony's own studios, it's becoming more and more obvious that developers need to cut the last-gen console loose. RE4 is the latest cross-gen title to be a bit of a mess on the PS4, while Digital Foundry points out that it's taken a fairly impressive effort to get the game running reasonably well on the last-gen machine. It does come with some significant downgrades, like incredibly blurry texture work, long load times, and dodgy performance issues. The general reception to the PS4 version seems much more negative on forums like Reddit, however. Users are posting reports of borderline unplayable combat scenarios thanks to tanking frame rates and distractingly blurred environmental assets, trying their best to ruin immersion. It's clear that Capcom had to cut a lot of corners to squeeze the remake onto such old hardware. It's a somewhat strange situation because Resident Evil 4 was originally billed as a current-gen exclusive. It was only several months after it's revealed that Capcom confirmed the remake was also in development for PS4, which did raise some eyebrows at the time. And yes, it's a PlayStation exclusive on last-gen systems. There is no proper Xbox One version. So they say here it's a bit of a shame that Resident Evil 4 isn't great on PS4, but again, we're talking about hardware that's over a decade old here. It might sound a bit harsh if you're yet to purchase a PS5, but the truth is that last gen has to end at some point. And if we're still getting shaky ports like this in 2023, it's easier than ever to argue that the time has come. So the reason why I wanted to read this article is because first, it is unfortunate that the PS4 version, of RE4 Remake is struggling so much, but I have to agree completely with what Push Square is saying here. I think that it's just not something we should be seeing at this point in time, right? I would go as far to say that PS4 players would rather just wait until they can get a PS5 and upgrade and enjoy a fully functioning version of this game than see a game that they want to play, that they're excited to play, and they're going to pay to play, end up running like this on their hardware. That's just my assessment of it anyway, but I do agree with Push Square. Let me know your thoughts about it down below. Moving on to the next topic, we're talking a little bit about Final Fantasy XVI. Again, coming from Push Square, Final Fantasy XVI was one of the highlights at PAX East 2023 over the weekend, where we got to see more of the stunning world of Valisthea, I think that's how you say it, before the developers fielded some of the community's snarkier questions in addition to showing off more gameplay. We also got some welcome technical specifications, with producer Naoki Yoshida revealing that Final Fantasy XVI will have the two performance modes we have come to expect with current-gen games. One will feature enhanced graphics with 4K visuals at 2160p and a 30 FPS target, while the other prioritizes frame rate, aiming for 60 FPS at likely 1440p. Both will benefit from near instantaneous load times, with a save file loaded during gameplay taking less than 3 seconds to return to gameplay, which is quite interesting given last week's squeeze gap discourse, which I'm not even going to entertain. It looks like QTEs are making a comeback too, with certain epic boss encounters being split into multiple phases, and with each phase shift, both boss and environment change as well. 3 different kinds of prompts will be required: attack, evasion, and clash, depending on the situation, with the developers wanting to make each shift feel more dynamic. So, wanted to let you guys know that basically the main takeaway here is there will be 2 different modes to choose from for Final Fantasy 16. It doesn't sound like the 1440p resolution at 60 FPS will be locked. It could be, but they didn't explicitly say whether or not it was locked. Same with the 30 FPS target. I'm assuming the 30 FPS will be locked, right? Same with the 60 FPS, and the resolution will basically scale. That, to me, would make the most sense. So there you go. Let me know which mode you're planning on playing. Moving on to the next topic, this is something I'm a little bit late to, but I still think it's important to let everybody know. This is being reported by PlayStation Universe, and it says if you've been waiting for any kind of discount or deal to grab a PS5, and you're in the US, then for the next few weeks, you'll have your chance. It's been made $50 cheaper until April 15th, 2023. The God of War Ragnarok PS5 bundle's on sale from $559.99. It's now down to $509.99, and the deal is available either through the PlayStation Direct store or through retailers like Amazon, Walmart, and Best Buy. So, yeah, it's not necessarily the, disc model PS5 being dropped down to $450, but this is what most people are going to end up going for, I would assume anyway, when they're looking to buy a PS5. And so, $510 for a disc model PS5 with God of War Ragnarok, that's something you might want to consider. It is going to save you money. So wanted to just put this out here. I'm assuming a lot of you listening to this right now do have a PS5 already, but maybe you don't, and maybe this is what you were waiting for, or maybe you know a friend or family member that has been waiting for something like this, and you can let them know. So let me know down in the comments below. Moving on to the final topic of the video, it seems that the voice actor who plays Tyr in God of War Ragnarok may have let something slip out here. At the very least, it's making fans speculate that we could be getting a sequel to God of War Ragnarok, or if not a sequel, maybe some type of DLC. So this was revealed by Tyr's voice actor during a PAX East God of War panel, and he basically said when he was talking about it, quote, "God of War Ragnarok isn't the last you've seen of Tyr," end quote. Now, the panel organizer then reportedly tried to shift the conversations, but in response to a question about the future of the God of War franchise, he then went on to say that he knows a little but doesn't know much, before jokingly adding that he has signed a non-disclosure agreement. Santa Monica Studio has previously said that God of War Ragnarok concludes the Norse saga, which was planned to be a 2-part series as opposed to a trilogy. So it's unlikely that we'll see a direct sequel to Ragnarok. The studio has also said that DLC is unlikely. That leaves us with the possibility that Tyr's voice actor was either teasing a new game in the series, which is almost a given, or possibly a role in the God of War TV series. And so it's worth noting that it might be nothing at all, but I don't think he would say that if he, if he really wasn't going to be involved in anything. And, we are going to get into slight spoiler territory here, so be warned if you haven't played and completed God of War Ragnarok, you might want to click off this video. But to me, it seems pretty obvious that we are going to get another game set in the God of War universe, except it's going to star Atreus, and I do think that Tyr will absolutely be part of that. Everything, in my opinion, points to that being the case. That's not to say that we won't get another game or future games starring Kratos. I think we will, but I definitely think that that's what's going to happen. I will also say he could definitely be involved in the God of War TV series, because the God of War TV series that's being worked on right now is going to cover the 2018 game, and you would assume after that, Ragnarok. So, yeah, I know that some people were maybe hopeful for some type of DLC, but it is true that Santa Monica did say that they don't have any plans for DLC. That could change, of course, especially when you see just how well God of War Ragnarok sold. But yeah, in case anybody was wondering whether or not this was the last we saw of Tyr, according to the voice actor, it's definitely not. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about that down in the comments below. That's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. If you did, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.